Hi, welcome to the deep demo of Replay on Solace Event Brokers. My name is Ed Funnekotter. I'm the head of the core product development team here at Solace. Today I'm going to run you through a lot about Replay on our brokers, and I'll show you a fairly extensive demo on how to use it. During this presentation, I will give a short description of what Replay is, what it is for, and discuss some of the differences of Replay on Solace brokers versus Replay on other PubSub brokers. So, what is Replay? Solace brokers, like other PubSub brokers, focus on getting published events to the appropriate consumers as quickly as possible. Ideally, the lifetime of the message within the broker is as short as possible. Here at Solace, we spend a lot of engineering time to reduce the time an event spends in the broker. Producers generate events and publish them to the event broker. Each event has a topic string associated with it. Consumers can dynamically subscribe to these events by registering topic subscriptions with the event broker. These subscriptions can have wildcards, they can be fully configured, they can just be prefixes. There's a lot of flexibility. When a published message has a topic that matches a consumer subscription, that message will be sent to that consumer or queued until the consumer is ready for it. For persistent messages or events, these events will be persisted on the event broker before being sent on to the consumer. While they are in the broker, the events will remain in a persistent queue until the event is received by the consumer and that consumer acknowledges the event. It should be noted that in Solace brokers, the event will be persisted only once, even if the event is being placed in multiple queues. When an event topic matches multiple consumer subscriptions, a reference to the event will be queued to each matching consumer. When the consumer sends an acknowledgement for the event, the reference to that event is removed from the consumer's queue. Once the event is removed from the persistent queue, that event is gone for that consumer forever. But Replay changes this. Time travel is now possible. With Replay enabled on Solace Event Brokers, all persistent events are saved in a Replay log independent of message delivery to consumers. The events are written to the Replay log in global temporal order across all topics. Consumers acknowledging their events and removing them from their queues has no effect on the Replay log. As mentioned earlier, the events are only stored persistently once, and all consumers have a reference to that stored event. This is also true for the Replay log. For example, an event being delivered to two consumers and being stored in the Replay log would still only store the event once in persistent storage. From the producer's and consumer's point of view, the broker behaves exactly as it always had. Except now, there is a massive safety net. Now with Replay, a consumer or administrator can request a replay of events for some point in the past. The broker will intelligently send all messages that match that consumer's subscriptions from that point on. If that consumer has subscriptions that match multiple topics, the events will be replayed to that consumer in global temporal order, even across these multiple topics. While Replay is occurring, the broker will queue new live data until the consumer is able to catch up, at which point live delivery will continue. All other consumers will continue to receive their live events as if nothing else is happening. So with Solace Replay, you can go back in time and you can change the past. While of course the events received by the broker can't be changed, you can use Solace's fine-grained subscriptions, including wildcards, to change the exact set of events that will be replayed to the consumer. So what does changing the past really mean? Before starting the replay, a consumer is allowed to change their set of subscriptions, and now receive a different set of events than they did in the past. This could allow a consumer to get more or fewer messages, possibly correcting for a configuration error that caused it to subscribe to an incorrect set of topics. Just like with all replays, the new set of topics will be delivered in global temporal order. Not only that, but a brand new consumer could be added. It could then register its set of subscriptions, and instead of going live immediately, it could choose to start its delivery in the past. That consumer subscriptions will select all the events with matching topics that have been received by the broker since the requested time. These events will be sent to the consumer in advance of switching to live delivery. All other consumers carry on with live delivery, completely unaware of this new consumer. Finally, these consumers can be using any of the many messaging protocols that Solace Event Brokers support, such as REST, MQTT, or AMQP, or Solace's proprietary protocol SMF. Why use replay? Here are a few uses of replay. First, we have application failure. This is where state is corrupted or could be lost due to bugs or environmental failures. Second, there's application misconfiguration. This might be an incorrect subscription set, which caused the wrong set of events to be sent to the application. Number 3, we have an application late join, where a new application comes online and you might want to receive some past events before going live. Finally, a useful application of replay is to test your new applications with past real events and get them all in the correct order. So how does Solace compare to other brokers? Designing, deploying, and maintaining large distributed applications is hard, very hard. Even in well-designed distributed applications, unanticipated failures will happen. Replay can save you, if you have it. As far as I'm aware, Solace PubSub event brokers and Apache Kafka are the only brokers with replay built right into the data path. Our broker comparisons is going to focus just between Kafka and Solace. Kafka brokers have a different queuing model compared to Solace. As summarized in this diagram, the Kafka brokers stores events in persistent event logs or partitions. Kafka producers publish events directly to statically configured topics. The events contain a key that allows the broker to select the appropriate partition. Consumers can choose where to start accessing events within the partition's log file. After consuming the events, the consumer can replay those events by reconnecting to an earlier offset in the partition, or connecting to another partition at an offset and consuming those events. While this queue model inherently provides replay on a per-topic basis, queuing in this manner loses ordering information among events that land on different topics or even partitions within the topics. Solace, in comparison, queues events against the individual consumers. Multiple topics are processed in order and are guaranteed to maintain that order. All consumers receiving those events will receive them in the same order. As shown earlier, replaying to a consumer will select all events matching that consumer's subscription set and provide them in the original temporal order as they were received by the broker. Let's look at some advantages of Solace versus Kafka. One of the main advantages of Solace Replay is that replayed events can be received in temporal order across all subscribed topics. Secondly, replays can be initiated administratively. You don't have to go to the app or recode the app to allow replays to occur. It can just be done from a central body. Lastly, replays can occur across all supported protocols. That's MQTT, AMQP, REST, webhooks, JMS, SMF, WebSockets, and more. And now advantages of Kafka Replay. Due to the way Kafka stores events against static topics in a distributed manner, it is possible to store far more events in the system. This can allow for a much more comprehensive event database for later replay. And now, on to the replay demo. First, I'm going to start off with just enabling the replay on broker. I'll move on to just describe a little bit about the network and the test tools I'm using to do this demonstration. I'll do some replay use cases that I mentioned earlier in the presentation, and then we'll be finished. You can go back to your day. Okay, so first we'll start with enabling replay on a broker. So if I go over to here, in this tab I have our web interface manager, which is connected to a Solace broker. This one in particular is running within our Solace offices here in Ottawa, and I will show you how to enable it. So first thing is replay is enabled on a per VPN basis. So you have to go into a VPN, and then if you look down the sidebar, you'll see there's one menu item called replay. It is incredibly easy to enable replay. You simply click create replay log, and inside here you want to have your incoming and outgoing turned on. These will allow you to tailor it later on if you want to, or if you want to do some maintenance, you can just shut it off for a while. Anyway, the only real configuration you have is how much memory it should use, how much disk space. I'm just going to configure it for 1000 megabytes. Hit apply, and there you go. Replay is fully enabled on your message VPN. Just so you realize, all persistent messages will be logged. So as messages come in, even if they don't get delivered to any consumer, they will consume space in this message log. Finally, I wanted to mention, as I have before, that if those messages are being queued to other consumers, it's really only a reference that is used for the replay log as well as those consumers. So it will only be stored once, regardless if you have the same message or event on many different queues. So that is enabled now, and I'm going to go over to where I'm going to actually run the demo. To do the demo, I'm using a Solace instance that's running within Solace Cloud. This particular instance, I think, is running in Toronto. And I've already previously set it up, and I've actually connected my test tools. And you can see I'm going to be using MQTT for this demonstration. And we already have a number of MQTT clients. We have a number of queues that are created, one for each of these clients. And at the moment, nothing's gone into the brokers, so we have no usage of it yet. I didn't show you how to replay, or show you how to enable replay in this instance, because on Solace Cloud, just to make sure you have sufficient resources and everything, you should contact Solace Cloud to enable replay, at least at this moment, on your instance. So if I go into my instance here, I could manage it. I'm going to click on Clients, and this is going to bring us into the web manager for that instance. Previously we were on the console for Solace Cloud. And before we dive too much into here, I'm going to show you the test tool. This is a quick little tool I whipped up. Well, I thought I was going to whip up. It actually took a fair bit more time than I expected. And maybe it's a little bit less polished than I would like, but I think it's good enough for showing what goes on with replay. But just so you understand what the tool is doing here, you might kind of recognize these. They might look a little bit like the portals that you would find in the really fun game made by a company called Valve called Portal. And in that game, you have to distribute these portals around the room. Things go in the orange one, they come out the blue one. In this case, I have multiple orange and blue ones, and if you look at the number here, like this is 100 and another 100 here. Over here I've got 200 and 200. Those are the IDs to link them up. So something that goes in here will pop out here. And I can demonstrate that. I can select my color, I can hit this little thing that spits out a little event, and the event will go through 100 to 100, 200 to 200, and this is a black hole. It's the null termination of the whole thing. So just so you understand, each one of these portals is actually an MQTT client running within a browser over WebSockets that communicates to the Solace Cloud instance running in Toronto. So as I push messages or events through here, that little guy is being converted into an event that's being sent to, like, over my Wi-Fi in my house here, through to Toronto. Gets matched up through normal PubSub messaging, and then gets sent back to this browser onto a different MQTT client, which will then recognize that it needs to be turned into the appropriate size and color of event. And my little event emitter that I have here can do a number of things. If I hit play, it will just keep spitting them out. I can change the color of these events. I can change the speed at which they go. If I slow it down a little bit, or speed it up, which gets a little bit aggressive, I can change the size of them, and again the size should be preserved all the way through, and I can actually change the speed at which I create these things. So that's my tool that lets me do a number of things, really just a publishing, and these portals are subscribing tools, but it's a little bit more visual and easier to see. So here we go, bump, bump, bump. If I really crank it up, it gets a little bit nuts. Woohoo! Here we go. And if I put it on random colors, oh, that's a bit too fast. It'll start spinning out events with random colors. And you can see that the numbers on here are the IDs of the events. One last thing to see if I can click on one. Alright, I gotta slow it down. If I click on one of these guys, it will Hold on. Let me throw another, oops. Okay, I'm going to create a bottleneck here. Let's pause it. If I click on an event, it will show me what the topic was that was sent through the PubSub network. And there's just a few components here. In fact, I can show you in my presentation here. The event schema is just event and portal are fixed. Then we have the portal color, the portal ID, the event shape, color, ID of it, and its size. So I can select with a subscription on any of this information and control where those events go. So that is my quick demonstration of the tool. So if we stop this tool, I'm just going to actually exit the whole thing. And by exiting that, we should actually see our connections have gone down. So instead of having 9 of them, I have 5 now. And if I look at my other window here where I'm going to do the more replay-oriented demonstration, I've got another few portals here. I've got one input one with number 1, and I've got 3 output ones. And I've actually configured these guys a little bit differently to, if you can see this, I'll try to zoom in on the video. They have a different subscription here that selects on the color of event, so that, as you can see, I've labeled them here red, blue, and green. They're only going to receive the events of that color. So if I spit a red one in here, out comes red. So I'll do a few demonstrations of the use cases using this setup so that you can just see how useful replay can be in your daily use of Solace PubSub messaging. First, before I start though, I am going to wipe out all the previous messages. So all the demonstration I just did created 498 messages logged in our replay log. You can easily get rid of those. So you can trim log messages from your replay log. You can do it, it's always done from the oldest up to a certain point, so I can choose what time to do it, but in this case I'm going to clear all the logs. Of course, as replay runs, as you hit your configured maximum, it will automatically trim the replay logs. So your oldest messages will be removed as you get new ones. It will keep them as long as it can, but it won't go over this configured space. And if I go back to my demonstration here, so imagine this is an application. I've got 3 different apps running here. I've got one producer of all kinds of different information. And in this case, I'll just start all of my event emitters. They're spitting stuff out, and my applications are nicely organized. They're getting the information that they want, and only the information that they want. And they're going to do some amount of processing on it eventually. Ooh, this guy's just surviving. And maybe the day is over. Maybe this is something to do in financial industry, and so you don't actually run at night. And so, okay, we have our stuff. These are our little databases here on these shelves. And unfortunately, if I run here and look at our use cases, I'm going to show you number 1 where there's an application failure where state is corrupted or lost. So you might have someone that's playing around with your green database and they're not really sure what's going on, and you've had a lazy coder that didn't actually maintain physics when you move an object in this thing, and oh, you've lost all of your events. So in the old scheme of normal PubSub messaging, at least on the ones where you have dynamic subscriptions, those will be gone and you can't do anything about it. However, luckily we have replay now and we have logged all of these messages. And if I go to our queues, this will show you all the different queues that existed with our persistent sessions within MQTT. And because I've labeled the clients, this is actually the client name, this green underscore random number is our client name. So I know this is the one that hooks up to this little application here. So if I click on this one, I can administratively go in here and say start replay. This lets me start from a certain time or start from the beginning of the replay log. And very soon there is going to be a third option here to say start from a specific message or event ID. The replay, of course, can be started from your client as well, but only if you're using the SMF, the Solace proprietary clients. MQTT and AMQP and all the other protocols we support don't include a means in their protocol to do replay. They probably will sometime in the future, but for now, for those clients, MQTT specifically, you have to start replay administratively, which is fine. We can do it. So if I do a start replay from the beginning, and before I hit OK, I'm going to try to shrink this window so we can see it. All right, so I will start my replay, and it does a little bit of stuff, and then here come the events. Perhaps a little fast, but yeah, that one came out. It went bounced back here and came back out. So there we go. We've recovered our data, and even though that looked pretty fast, this portal is slowing them down. They would come almost instantaneously through this portal in a big stream of them. So that covers the first one, the application failure where stuff is corrupted or lost. What about if you have misconfigured it, you have the wrong subscription set, and you've received events that you did not want, or you didn't receive some that you did want? So if we go back here, remember how I can click on this and see some information. Let's say this application was supposed to be far more selective, and I did not want to get all these green events. I wanted specifically a small subset of that. And so I can go in here, I'm going to change my subscription. Right now, this is an MQTT style of subscription. A plus means a wildcard for a level. A hash sign means give me everything that matches stuff past that point. And I can be a bit more specific here and say, give me event 14. If I hit OK and close out of there, now let's just get rid of these events again. Whoop. It's a good thing I didn't maintain physics while I move it. And if I now restart replay, I've changed this. And this is something that's fairly interesting in that I have a very dynamic subscription set. I had a set of events that came through the queue for this client, and we could have done replay that just backed up what went to each client, but instead we kept them all in one log, all in temporal order. So if I decide that I don't want the set of subscriptions I had before and I want to go back in time and change them, I can do that. So if I go back to that same queue and then say start replay again, now the system, not only is the system smart enough, like you could imagine that this client is just saying, well, I'm going to receive all of my events, but I'm only going to pass on 14 to the application. No, this one is actually telling the broker, just send me 14. So you don't get a whole lot of unnecessary data sent to you over the network that you discard. You just get what you want. And that's huge. That's good for bandwidth, it's good for latency. And in cases of very large messages, sometimes you just don't have the throughput. So there you go, I got number 14 and only number 14. So what's our next use case? An application late join. So once again, this could be due to misconfiguration, or you could have a brand new application you want to come online and you want to get some of the past just to set up your database properly before you go live. So I can add a new application here using my tool, which is maybe just a little bit wonky here. And just if you've never tried to do one, create one of these tools that can rotate and change the size of a box, like doing this, you have no idea how complicated that is. Anyway, if I just put that, I'll create a new portal. Boink. I will rotate this around appropriately. Now, don't get confused by these portals. We do have an awesome tool called Event Portal, which is available through Solace Cloud, which has nothing to do with these little portals. However, this one still is pretty good for visual demonstrations. Let's call this one orange. You could probably have guessed I was going to do that. And has the right ID. And the one thing I have to do still, by default, when you create these portals, it will just subscribe to everything that comes through this blue guy, as long as it has the same ID. I don't want that. I want to say, remember the schema, the next one was shape. I don't care what shape it is, but I do care about the color. So I'm going to type in orange here and hit OK. And now, if I go back to my thing here, if I refresh my data, I'll see that I have an orange queue that was being created. So this came along just recently. However, all the events predated it. That does not matter. I can start replay on the orange queue, and I should see all those orange events that were published a long time ago. And now here's my past history. I can then go live and get all the new events, and my database and data is all ready for it. So that was application late join. Now my next use case is testing applications with past events. So for that, I'm going to show us something a little bit different. Okay, so finally on to this last use case. So I had spent a fair bit of time recording a fairly elaborate last portion for this, where I was developing things as I went along, but it became very clear that this was far too long a demo. So instead of boring you with all of that and my trials and tribulations of trying to get actual gravity working on my iPad, I'll just show you the final thing that actually got to work. So let's start by pulling out of our demonstration here, my screen, show you quickly where I'm working. This is where I work every day for the last year. And here is my iPad, which I promise you, use as an application to demonstrate how replay helps. So I kept on replaying onto this thing. What I wanted to do was get the true gravity. You know, these things have accelerometers, so you can turn it side to side and actually have the gravity change. So why not get that to work with that? So what I did was I queued up some events that are inside the system, and now I'm just going to replay straight to my iPad. And quickly do that, finish this off, start replay, and we should see the events come out. Here they come. And I had all kinds of issues trying to get this to work, but in the end I finally did get my gravity to be respected for however I turn this. And of course, as they go back in there, they all came out onto my screen. And that's about it. Thank you so much for all the time you spent watching me and watching this demonstration. Get a Solace broker and try it out.